question, the member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Today we are joined by two courageous women, Emily Agar and Kate Alexander. Both of them experienced horrific gender-based violence. The police investigated, evidence was collected, charges were laid, and they took their accused to court, only to have their cases then thrown out due to unconstitutional delay, Speaker. Kate frequently contacted the courts to remind them of the looming deadline and asked for a hearing date, only for her case to be then scheduled 18 months, after 18 months of the Jordan deadline had passed. When she pointed this out, they said that nothing could be done. Violent abusers and rapists walk free in our communities today. The government's underfunding of the court system has led to that. Will the Premier commit today, in front of Kate and Emily and their families, to fund the courts, to clear the backlogs so survivors can have their actual day in court?
Members will please take their seats. The Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, and I don't have the luxury of being able to address individual cases, so I will talk in broader terms. We are doing everything we can, Mr. Speaker. We're investing in the courts. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, the opposition tells the stories, but we're taking the action. We have hired over 340 individuals in the court system, be it Crown prosecutors, victim witness assistants, court employees, court staff, bail vetters. Mr. Speaker, it is incredible the amount of resources this government is putting into the system to deal with the lack of progress that happened under the Liberals previous to us. Now, Mr. Speaker, here's the real challenge. Will the member opposite, in front of these individuals, stand up and tell them that they will support the budget that says we're investing $6 million over 3 years for the children at risk exploitation, $4.5 over 3 years for the victim quick response team, $2.5 million over 3 years to increase the outreach to children and youth, Mr. Speaker, $27 million over 3 years to enhance sexual assault and domestic violence services, Mr. Speaker, and $6.5 million over 3 years to support.
Thank you. The supplementary question.
Speaker, it's clear that this government says that they're sticking to their plan with their budget, but their plan is actually failing survivors like Emily and Kate. This government released its budget only 2 days ago. Court backlogs, bail, and pretrial detention was never mentioned, not once. Emily's rape trial began, but it could not finish because the timeline ran out. Yesterday, Emily tells me that her legal and court part of her story is now over. She's now fighting for all survivors after her so that they can have a chance to have their day in court. How many other survivors, how many, have to come forward to tell their painful stories again and again before this Premier in government is willing to admit that they've let them down, that the courts are in shambles, and they refuse to do anything about it?
Members will please take their seats. The Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, and that's more indignation without action, Mr. Speaker. I didn't hear a yes to supporting this budget, Mr. Speaker. We are supporting all parts of the system. Now, we recently put $18.7 million to 400 gender-based service providers. You voted against it. We put additional money to emergency shelters, to counseling, 24-hour services. You did nothing. You voted against it. Indignation does not pay the bills. We are supporting the victims in this system, Mr. Speaker. We're adding resources. We're adding capital. We're adding the staff and the people that need to make the system run. It was left to shambles by the previous Liberal government, supported by the NDP, and now they vote against every single improvement to protect the vulnerable in our society, Mr. Speaker.